Hello, Scorpio, and welcome to Indigo Rising Tarot. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you're having a great day or night, depending on when you are watching this. This will be your weekly reading for the week of July 20th through the 26th. During that time, we'll have a waning crescent moon, and that's a really good time of surrender, rest, healing, a good time to just let go and get ourselves prepared for the new cycle ahead. So we're kind of wrapping things up. That new cycle, of course, begins on the new moon on the 25th. And that's a good time for a fresh start, new beginning, good time to start new projects, new work that you have coming up, or, even make new decisions, that sort of thing. Oh, my nose is so itchy. So keep those moon energies in mind as we move through the week. This will be an intuitive general reading, Scorpio. So, of course, please take what resonates and leave what doesn't for someone else. All right, your overall message card for this reading: conclusions are within reach. All right, let's see what the Scorpio Collective has going on for the week. As I'm shuffling, my weekly reminder this week is that you get out into nature. So, find a place to take a hike, or just get somewhere where there's a really beautiful view. Maybe find a place that you've heard about, and, maybe you have to take a little bit more of a drive to get to it. If you know of a waterfall that you haven't seen, or, just maybe a lake view, that sort of thing. So just get out into nature and pay attention to something maybe a little bit longer than you normally would. This would be like, nature, watch the animals, or, look at a tree or a plant, just really study nature and just see what that does for you. I find it to be very meditative, and but just enjoy it. Close your eyes, just enjoy the sounds and the sights there of nature. So, all right, Scorpio, without further ado, let's get into this reading. July 20th through the 26th. Conclusions are within reach. Okay, your present situation, Scorpio, is the Ace of Cups. So something is coming into you here, and it's something that you are going to love. So this could be a person, it could be a thing. It's just that there's some outpouring of your heart that, I love this thing. And this could be, this could be something as, like I said, as big as a person. I had this cup come up when I had a grandchild coming in. And I absolutely do adore that little boy. He's adorable. But it could also be, I've also had this come in when there was just a new thing that came into my life. So, this could be so many things, but there's something coming to you this week that you're just going to be like, oh, I love this. I love it. So awesome. Your current situation is the Chariot. So it looks like you've been, looking to make some sort of move in some area. And it could be in this area of love. And this could be that you meet someone and you're not quite ready to make a move on that yet. You're a little, maybe getting to know that person, but this is about proper execution, and it's about kind of planning and thinking about it. And so, yeah, something's happening there. There's some movement that you're not really making a move quite yet, but you're getting ready to. At the root of this situation is the King of Wands. So this is, having knowledge in the ways of passion and, things that really light a fire under you. And, this is interesting. So this is telling me that maybe, this could be love related. If we've got passion and love and, getting ready to make a move, very interesting. We'll see what other cards come out here, Scorpio. What is in your recent past is the Queen of Wands. Lots of, got a couple of court cards coming out here. So Queen of Wands also with the King of Wands. So both of these cards are very related, of course, in the ways of passion, where the King is more about the knowledge of, the Queen is more that maternal understanding of. And both of them are not only about your own passions, but also the people around you. What drives the people around you, and what sets them on fire too, the people in your kingdom, in your midst. So very interesting that this is a lot of wands coming up here with that cup. What is on your mind this week is the Empress. She may end up being the star of our readings this week. I've seen her a couple of times, and actually on the mind of everyone. So I think just in my last reading I just did, the Empress made an appearance also. So, of course, the Empress is, and what's on your mind is creativity. And this is, of course, our card of pregnancy, but also it can be about not giving actual birth to a baby, although it could be. Don't think that that's not there. for some of you. But for some of you, it's about making decisions for projects and things that are a little more long term. It's about, it's not about creativity like, like you're making, like if you sew, like you're making a pot holder. This is about like making a quilt, something that goes on much longer. It takes a lot more planning and patience to get through. So that's on your mind. It's kind of a long-term creative project. Again, for some of you, that could be a child. Let's see what's just ahead of you here is the Knight of Swords. So some action here in the way of messaging, in the way of, swords are air energy. So this is logic, this is thought, this is, but it's also messages and things that are coming in. So some message ahead of you this week that may affect this Chariot card, that may affect you're planning on making a move and kind of gathering information. And this, I think, will be helpful information about that. So some information comes into you. Again, if it says conclusions are within reach, it could be this messaging that comes in that kind of helps you decide how to make a move here when it comes to this Chariot, what move that you are going to make, or, you're kind of in that information gathering mode, and this information that comes in, it looks like very rapidly. So could be very important to making those decisions. In your advice position is feeling like you against the world. I've also seen this card a couple of times this week here, but also look, we're dealing with more wands. So feeling like you against the world, but in the way of fire. This is something like that you believe in, that you kind of have to convince the rest of the world about for some reason. Do you? And I would maybe question that, but your advice is to just keep fighting for the thing that you think is very important. Again, conclusions are within reach. This is kind of a hold your ground card. Whatever this is, it's important to you, and it's important enough to fight for. What is beyond your control this week is the Five of Swords. So a little bit of conflict coming in here, and it's beyond your control. And I feel like, I always explain with this card, we're taught as tarot readings that this card means winning through deceit or underhanded tactics. Of course, that could be the case. I always throw that out there, but I also throw out that it is sword energy. And, imagine that this person here had five swords, and swords as in communication, coming in, that they threw a couple of swords. These people out here are not very happy about whatever words were exchanged, but this person also held a little bit back, right? They didn't say everything. They said a little bit. They said enough to get a reaction, but sometimes I think this means holding some information, some thoughts closer to your chest, that maybe some things need to be said, but you don't need to go so far, to really hurt feelings. It looks like you've said enough, I guess. But that's beyond your control this week, is to have some exchange of words there, words or communication back and forth. What is your secret desire, or what you're trying to avoid, is the card of grief here. Two fives on the table. So, this is definitely a time for you. Fives in numerology are kind of about struggles and hardship. This is kind of our fives are conflict in the series of numbers, right? And in 1 through 10, five is where and it's where we learn when we have this conflict. So, because this is in your secret desire or trying to avoid, I would bet that you're trying to avoid kind of feeling sad, feeling grief, feeling, these cups over. But, I always like to point out too, remember, you've got these cups at your back. You do have support with you, but we do have two fives on the table, which means that this is some sort of conflict. Again, conclusions are within reach. Does it come in through this messaging? Perhaps. Let's see what happens in your outcome position. Is, yeah, that things are happening very rapidly. And look, more wands on the table. Lots of wands out here. So whatever this is for you, Scorpio, it's something that you feel very passionate about, and you want to make a move on something here. You want to make a move. Let's see. It's something you really love. I'm just trying to do a reread here. Something you really, really love, something you're very passionate about. You want to hold your ground. You're trying to avoid feeling sad about it. Words are being exchanged, messages are coming in, things are happening quickly. I don't even see that you make a move yet this week. I feel like this is kind of an information gathering week. We've got information coming in here. We've got opinions of other people. We've got some words being exchanged, and you're kind of in this conflict stage where I don't see a big resolution. Let's see what happens. What's hidden from you at the bottom of the deck? What is hidden from you, yeah, is rest and meditation. This is not a week for that, obviously. There's just a lot happening. And, your overall message says that conclusions are within reach. I don't think this concludes this week. I think you're going to be in this energy until next week, whatever is going on here with you. Again, it's something you love, something you're passionate about, but there's just you're just kind of fighting someone about it. So let's see what the Soul Oracle deck says. Soul Oracle message for Scorpio. Um, let's see here. Be creative. So, the Empress is our card of creativity. So there's something here that's telling you, and maybe think creative as you're sorting out all this information that's coming into you. I would say definitely be thinking creatively on how to solve things or how you may want to move forward next week. But again, no rushes to judgment this week. This is kind of an information gathering week, where things are happening, words are being exchanged, but hold your ground because you want to make the right decision so that you're not sad or, in grief about it later. Let's get a self-care wisdom card. Self-care for Scorpio this week, because they're going to need it. There's a lot of information and things coming in. All right, this card, happiness. Your thinking will either make your happiness or take your happiness. You choose. Very interesting. Okay, so whatever, remember I said, this Ace of Cups. Is this a person? Is this a thing? Is this something that you love that you do? Something that you love that you're very passionate about? And you're kind of just having to defend it this week. You're defending it, and it looks like, you're coming to some sort of conclusion with something, and it's almost like a choice. It's almost like an either or choice. So be creative in your thinking this week. And again, your thinking will either make your happiness or take your happiness. And what this says to me is, you can be positive, you can be negative. And I do think we make those choices to be what we are. And that makes sense to me with the self-care card, is that you're thinking sometimes, for all of us, and what I always say, that you choose to be happy or not. You choose happiness or you choose to be miserable. Make that choice very wisely. Scorpios, you guys tend to be very, very, very intense, and question yourself. Question, is something going on here? Am I having to make this move because of the way I am, and do I need to change? So this is kind of an inner, turning that mirror around and looking at yourself. But again, there's other people involved, and you're kind of defending something here. So I would ask yourself, why are you defending this so hard, and is it worth it? And it very well may be, but you need to ask yourself that question: is it worth it? All right, Scorpio, I really appreciate your time here with me today. I do hope there was something in this reading that you can take away and use. If you can answer the question, is it worth it, in the comments, if you're comfortable sharing, of course, let us know. Compare notes with other Scorpios. Let's see what everyone's going through. I do post readings every week, so come back next week and we'll see if this does come to some sort of conclusion next week. Life doesn't happen in a week. Sometimes things go on for weeks, even months, things that you're trying to rectify. So anyway, if you do like my reading style, please like and subscribe. Not only does it help my channel, which I really appreciate, it'll help you find me next week. So thanks so much, Scorpio. Good luck with this, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.